Namaskar. How difficult is this entire sadhana? The Fit for Life program of Karma Yoga for 21st century. Now, as we always say, every day I mention that this is a sadhana paddhati, which means that it's a process for being in the path of a daily routine, daily deep committed practice. Sadhana, deep committed practice, and paddhati is process. How difficult is this? That's a question that comes up very often, and today in this satsang we are going to address that particular issue. Well, there are two parts to this difficulty. Let me address the first part, which is about time. Now, I have mentioned earlier that this whole process would take anything around at least 3 hours a day. That's 3 out of the 24-hour day should be dedicated to pursuing in the pursuit of this sadhana. Now that's a tall order. In today's day and age, we know no one has 3 hours for anything every day. You know, when we were growing up, it was assumed that as students you had a lot of time, and everyone would say, oh, when you grow up, when you have to have the entire burden or responsibility of a family, of earning money, of earning a livelihood, then you will see you will not have time. Now you have time, use the time wisely, etc. So that was then, but nowadays I see even students say that they have no time at all. No one seems to be having any time for anything. Now, under those circumstances, when we are demanding that you provide for 3 hours every day to pursue this sadhana, that itself would seem like a non-starter, right? Now, what I'm doing is what is typically called the first objection handling. Now, that's the first objection you would bring up to this whole pursuit of the sadhana or pursuit of this path. Let me handle that objection properly and logically. Well, we have 24 hours a day, but it is said that we need to give about 8 hours out of these 24 hours to our sleep. Some people, that's what doctors normally say. Well, of course, there are variations. Some would say, no, not 8 hours, but I give 7 hours. I'm comfortable with 7 hours sleeping. Some would say, I'm comfortable sleeping 6 hours, etc., and so on. But generally, it's anything between 6 to 8 hours would be the normal. Now, imagine if you could get the same result that you get by sleeping 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours. Why do you sleep for that time? In order to, get freshness, get more energy. Before you go to sleep, you are tired, you have lost energy, and you have lost vitality, and you are not fresh, feeling fresh. You sleep and you wake up and then you feel fresh again. You feel more full of energy once again. You are no longer tired, etc. Well, that is the need for the sleep. Now, if you get that same result by sleeping less time, supposing you get the same amount of freshness and energy and rejuvenation of your vitalness in your whole being by sleeping for 4 hours instead of 6 hours, or 5 hours instead of 7 hours, or 6 hours instead of 8 hours, or 5.5 hours instead of 8 hours, you've actually saved 2 to 3 hours of your time. Now, if you've already saved 2 hours or 3 hours of your time, which anyway you were providing for your sleep, then you have the time to pursue these 3 hours of sadhana, and that's exactly what happens. Because the first part of the sadhana process that we talk about, which is Somno Magic, the technique or the practice called Somno Magic, which is based on the traditional, thousands of years old traditional practice of Yoga Nidra, where for ages yogis have shown that by practicing Somno Magic and other practices like this, they have been able to control or conquer the need for sleeping more. With very little sleep, they have been doing fine with their lives. Now, that has been shown. I have seen that happen in my own personal life. I can give you data and evidence for last 30 years of my own life where I have gained at least 2 to 3 hours every day by practicing Somno Magic, Yoga Nidra. Now, and this is documented, it's not just me. Even today, many people who do this practice, and Somna magic is not, or yoga, everyone, no one else calls it Somna magic, but Yoga Nidra, the practice, is a very prevalent one. We are not the only ones who are doing it. A lot of people have practiced it, and they would all confirm this, that it saves you time. So these practices do not consume extra time. These practices of Fit for Life actually help to save time and not eat up your time. So the whole logic of I have no time dissolves. In fact, if you pursue this path properly and engage in these practices, what you will find is that you will actually save a lot of time from other things which actually eat up your time. Two of the most prominent ones amongst those are relate to your physical body and your mental self. Your physical health and mental health. All of us end up giving some time to recoup from problems that we have in our physical body, physical health as it is called, or mental health. As in, mental health need not have become mad, completely crazy, but every day we spend time, every once in a while, most people spend time because they are mentally feeling unwell, down, not quite up to it. All of these kind of things, either feeling lazy or feeling angry or feeling jealous or feeling lusty, or any of these inappropriately. All of these feelings in the appropriate measure might be right, but in an appropriate manner, these are all mental problems. So you have to give time to recoup, not only engage in these mental problems, but also recoup from them, because there's an aftermath of all these problems happening in your life. And the same thing with your physical health. Now, the time that gets consumed in order to keep ourselves physically agile and mentally agile, that time gets saved. So actually you end up having more time in your life and not less time. So this is an increase of the time that you have in your life, rather than you giving the logic that this eats up 3 hours of my day every day. No, it doesn't. It actually frees up time for you to do more constructive stuff. Now that's the part about time. When it comes to the other practices, like other than Somno magic, we have Pranlila Upasana, Stamiflex Arti, Shakti Stretch Aradhana, Meditation, and Levosim. Now, all these together actually, as we say, comprise the whole sadhana paddhati, or the path of Karma Yoga for 21st century. Now, in these, specifically the Stamiflex Arti and the Shakti Stretch Aradhana, these are two things which people have objections for, that, oh no, this is not for me. I cannot do this. This is very too difficult for me. I really cannot. Now, the Stamiflex Arti is something where they would say, oh, this is almost 35 to 40 minutes of kind of activity, cardiovascular, pumping yourself, jogging kind of thing, and you're moving your legs. Yes, you are. And I agree. I mean, there would be a normal soccer match. The Calcutta Football League, when I was growing up, used to be 70-minute a game, which was broken into two parts, 35-minute halves. One half was 35 minutes, and it took a lot of stamina to keep running for 35 minutes. So I agree that it might take a lot of stamina, and people who are elderly or older people, or people who are feeling weak because they are ailing in some way, or suffering from some actual disease, someone who's on a wheelchair or someone who's prostrate on the hospital bed, how would they do that? And my claim is that all of these people that we described, everyone could engage in this practice. Ask me how. Before that, let me point out to the Shakti Stretch Aradhana, which sometimes people feel even more difficult. So they would say, oh, no, that is not for me, I cannot do this. Because Shakti Stretch Aradhana is actually a garland of asanas stitched together by your breathing. So this asana part of it, some of them, people would find that, oh, this is too difficult. I cannot do this. This Mayurasana, this balancing, this stretching, I cannot do this, not for me. The point is, and I'm again saying that we have observed that this is the place where when the rubber hits the road, people walk away and say it's too difficult for me. I am claiming again, it's not difficult for anyone, including the person who's stuck to his or her hospital bed. Why? Why do I say this? It's not just fervent passion which makes me speak. There is a very clear rationale and logic which I will point to. And the logic is this. In order to really understand any of this, what we are doing, you have to understand one, the aspect of where does our activity start? What is action? What is karma? Karma, action. What is action? Where does it start? Now, the misconception that we all have is that action means it relates to what we are doing with the body. But thought is also an action. See, it's something that's happening in the mind. In fact, any action before it can happen in the body or correlated to the action happening in the body, there is activity in the mind, which could be called thought, which could be called planning, which could be called by so many different names, which all relate to the mental dimension, activities of the mental dimension. Thinking, rationalizing, desire, building up the desire, building up passion. Ichcha it is called in Indian languages. So there are, before it becomes desire, there is another angle to it, or another thread or another part of that same spectrum, which could be called intention. Before you have desire, you have intention. Where does intention reside? It's in which dimension? You are aware that this can be done, that awareness, that yes, I might be able to do this, I should try. This awareness itself. Now, before even it has become a thought that I should try, there is awareness. That resides in a subtler plane, subtlest plane maybe, in the more consciousness plane or consciousness dimension. Then it comes to the mental dimension as thought. Then it translates into energy in the pranic dimension, energetic dimension of your being. Then it gets into your bodily physical function or activity. Now, it's not sequential like this always. I'm saying where does it start, but it's all correlated. So it's not essentially sequential, but it's cyclical. You do something that influences the consciousness, which influences the mind, which influences the energy, the influences the body, etc. So they have correlates, they affect each other, influence each other constantly. So it's not that it's a one-way street only. But the point is that these are the correlates. So someone who's not being able to do the physical action at least can engage in the activities of the chitta, or the consciousness of the mind, the man, or the prana, or the energetic being. You are in the hospital bed, you're not being able to stand up and jog, but you can create that intentionality in yourself that, oh, I want to do this. Then that want to do this has already become desire. Then it's passion. Then you create the energy to just move your feet a little bit, lying in the hospital bed, little bit, or on the wheelchair, or you're very tired, but you do a little bit. Today, that's your limit. See, the same thing goes with all the practices. In Shakti stretch, whatever we are doing, all the asanas or the postures, nothing is difficult. It's because we have mentioned you have to reach your limit. Your limit is that point where you can reach by definition. You are not doing this to reach my limit or what was your limit yesterday. On another day, another age, when you were young, your limit may have been different. Now you're old and maybe feeble, so your limit might have changed. But just reaching that limit is possible, whatever be that. Whatever be that limit. You may not be able to move your limbs. That is your limit. In your physical dimension, you're not being able to move the limb. But in your conscious dimension, what can you do about this? In your mental dimension, you can do something. Do it. Do it. Give it the time that we want you to give. That is the sadhana. That is the paddhati. That is the process. To give the time, not give up. Not give up. Not say, no, cannot, I cannot do it. No. I is not just your body. So your body cannot do it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. There are parts of you, there are dimensions of you who can do it, who can engage in this. And remaining engaged in this is the process of healing, is the process of keeping moving. So that's the point that we were trying to make, that it's not difficult. It's difficult only if you misunderstand the sadhana. If you think that you have to do the sadhana in order to copy someone else, for someone else, to compete with someone else, then you will find it difficult. Then you will not be able to do this. But if you have heard this satsang today and really understood what I'm trying to say, then you can never bring up this excuse again that this is too difficult for me. That's all for today, folks. Have a nice day. Take it easy and take care. Namaskar.